So, I kinda hate Daria. I was originally gonna make this an episode of my little YouTube show with the text-to-speech, but come on. The second I said text-to-speech, I already decided to never watch those videos ever. Also because I don't feel like text-to-speech can properly convey my emotions on this overrated cartoon. Daria is a Beavis and Butthead spin-off that, despite being better than Beavis and Butthead, still suffers from its own problems. In Beavis and Butthead, Daria was the butt monkey who had to deal with these teenagers, and once the time came for a spin-off, the new writers decided that instead of making the main characters stupid and everyone around them normal and intelligent, they'd make the main characters into Mary Sue's and everyone around them into absolute fucking. So what is Daria? It's Rick and Morty for teenage girls. It's the Femcel show. It's... I'm not like all the other girls. As a 90s cartoon, it's overrated as hell. For reference, I'm not some angry men's rights activist, like one of those MGTOW who think that women are just a raw deal in general. So cool it with the comments calling me an incel for not liking this shit. I got nothing else to say about this show other than how annoying the characters are. I'm talking about all of them, well, except a few. Let's start off with the worst characters, Quinn and Stacy? Quinn is an absolute abomination of a teenage girl. I would kill myself if I had the displeasure of being related to such a self-absorbed, manipulative cunt. With an annoying airheaded voice that I'm pretty sure is the same voice actor for Stacy, who instead of being a manipulative cunt, is just a complete bimbo with a stupid boyfriend. While we're on that topic of Quinn, her whole fashion club can go to hell. Not one of them are likable or interesting or funny, especially this evil bitch with a deep voice. What exactly am I supposed to find funny about teenage girls bullying each other with unrealistic standards to the point where one of them is an emotionally unstable wreck who would be put on suicide watch if this was real life? Well, it's enough female bashing for now. I don't want to lose all my Reddit karma. Let's bash the male students now. None of them have any personality. There's a Melvin who's somehow the most tolerable recurring character despite literally being written to be an annoying pervert that nobody likes. He's still not funny, but hey, it doesn't make my ears bleed. Kevin had the most potential to be funny since he's just a dumbass jock that gets shit on all the time, whether by it's his insane butthurt man-hating teacher.
Excellent job, Daria. You get an A.
Alright!
Not
Man!
you get a D.
Alright!
Who would have been fired for making a student hurt themselves, and general sexism. In any other environment, Kevin would be considered highly autistic, or so mentally incapable of basic thought that he'd be put in a remedial class and be forced to wear a helmet at all times. At the risk of him randomly deciding that ramming his head into the nearest cement wall is a good idea. There's also the one black guy in the entire town that Kevin calls Mac Daddy, because he's white and doesn't have the self-awareness to realize that white people sound stupid saying black slang. The show realizes around season 4 that it's kind of bad that they only have 2 minority characters, and comments on this. However, like every single YouTube commentary video in the world says,
being self-aware doesn't make your problems go away.
It feels like these two were put in for virtually no reason, other than realizing they might get some shit for making an American town all white.
Despite the existence of Alabama.
Like, I get it, it's the 90s, they weren't woke back then. There's no way in hell we get an episode acknowledging the existence of gay people who aren't white. Teachers are something awful. Principal's the only Asian character, and she's a petty, judgmental sellout who is typically portrayed as straight-up evil. The man-hating teacher I brought up before is absolutely insufferable. Mostly because I don't find child abusers funny, but to each their own. The guidance counselor is this absolute beta male who somehow is the sexiest thing imaginable to the man-hating teacher because logically, the man-hater is 100% straight and a beta male is close to a woman anyways, so it makes sense, I guess. Typically in episodes he's portrayed as such a massive pussy, that our perfect little Daria being too edgy for him scares the hell out of him. Mr. DiMartino is an exception to this, since generally he's the only somewhat amusing character, since he hates everyone else as much as I do. There's probably another teacher here somewhere, but I really don't care. On the topic of the adult characters, we got the only recurring parents, Daria's. Daria's dad starts off as a beta male, but gradually develops anger problems. But since he's still a beta male, he has a heart attack after a little hissy fit. Daria's mom is a hypocritical bitch who's too busy being a lawyer to realize that her daughter Quinn is on a self-destructive path and just lets her do whatever the hell she wants. And whenever Quinn gets punished for her actions, Daria has to suffer as well, despite Daria being a Mary Sue and having absolutely nothing wrong with her. This is what we call bad parenting. Let's talk about the three main characters, Daria, Jane, and Trent. I'll save Daria for last, because while thinking this all over, I had a little revelation. Jane's probably the most likable character. Maybe it's because I can actually relate as a fellow porn artist, but she's genuinely more interesting than Daria. Her snarkiness comes off more like,
God, you're a fucking idiot.
Instead of Daria's,
God, I'm better than you.
I'm not gonna talk about her boyfriend because he's just flat out boring. Somehow he's the only character that the fans hate. Like, really? This guy? He's just fucking boring. Rant is fine, he's a part of the monotone trio, and Daria gets a crush on him. I think she stops around season 3 because she realizes that Trent's kind of a loser. Well, for the part the fans are really gonna hate me for. Daria is a fucking Mary Sue. She's always portrayed as wise, smarter than everyone, insightful, better than everyone, and the only time anything is ever wrong with her is because she has a crush on a man. In the event of that happening, she becomes a human, instead of a vehicle for neurodivergent teenage girls who think that they're not like all the other girls to have a pity party with. Oh, woe is Daria. She has it so bad for a white girl in a wealthy family with no real problems. She has to go to school with a bunch of morons and one friend. She has parents who just don't understand. She has a mean little sister who completely disowns her in public. She has boy problems because this is the 90s. And you couldn't be a lesbian without a bunch of religious fundamentalists stoning you to death. You see what I mean, right? Daria is not a character. She exists solely to be a Mary Sue and be snarky. She's Rick Sanchez if he was a teenage girl. Daria's fans don't just like the show. They don't just like Daria. They think they are Daria. They think that they're the smartest person in the room, despite being teenagers and completely emotionally immature. They're the generation that grew up and decided they're too good for everyone, and became journalists, because getting a real job is hard when your only skill is being a snarky bitch. In short, Scott Pilgrim didn't ruin a generation of women, Daria did. All these non-existent credits roll, I might as well give some more thoughts on Daria that wouldn't fit anywhere else. This is mostly about how I hate the characters and isn't really a review. First off, Season 3 Episode 1, aka the musical episode, is terrible. If you thought all these voices were annoying or too monotone, get ready to hear them sing! Oh, goody goody gumdrops, can't wait to hear Daria sing something that's completely out of character. Logically, if Trent or Jane wouldn't fucking sing in these. Trent maybe because he's in a band, but they're too upbeat. But who cares about consistency? We want to fucking write songs. Secondly, the only episode I kinda liked was the one everyone talks about, the painting that Daria's school fucks with. And for once, Daria's mother acts like a fucking mother and calls out this principal for being a cunt. I like that. You get a gold star, Daria. Aside from that, every episode ranged from a meh to an ugh. Don't ask why I watched 4 seasons of this show if I didn't like it. Third and final point. I like the art style, I'll give it that. It's cute in its simplicity aside from the weird constantly bent knees in certain scenes. That just looked kind of weird. For some clarity, I got a few things to say. No, this isn't a review. I didn't finish season 4, start season 5. Who knows, maybe Daria's a late bloomer and season 5 is a hidden masterpiece of animation. No, I don't think Daria would have been a better show if it had minority representation beyond bitchy Asian principal and 2 black people. It's mostly just me bitching about the 90s like a fucking weirdo. No, I'm not crazy for effectively torturing myself with a cartoon for Femcels that somehow ran longer than 2 other MTV cartoons that were way better. No, I'm not an incel. I see you about to comment that Daria fan 2355, get your fucking hands off that keyboard. No, I'm not calling Daria a femcel because I think that she'll never get laid. I'm calling her a femcel because it's funny and it's kind of accurate. Okay, I'm done.
Morgan Dorfer. Or like, Moron Dorker.